All right, today's episode, we are going to break down the AFC North division. This is a division that a lot of people have said is one of the best divisions in football, and while I think that there's usually like a top two in this division, historically the Bengals and the Browns have not been very good. So I don't know how great this division is, and as we go through a lot of these divisions, I think that it's kind of interesting because what a competitive division to me is like we don't know the order, right? We're not sure the pecking order of this division. So the NFC West, I think, is a division that is interesting. Like, I'm not quite sure how the 49ers are going to react after last season. You have the Seahawks, the Rams, the Cardinals are going to be feisty this year. I think that is a division that is interesting. This division, I feel like the pecking order of this division is pretty clear, and I think it's been clear recently, and so I don't know if this is like one of the quote-unquote best divisions in football. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it with my number 4 team. No surprise here. The Cleveland Browns are a mess, and I feel bad for Browns fans, and I feel bad for the city of Cleveland that, like, even when you get just a sliver of hope with, like, Baker Mayfield winning a playoff game, then you go back down to what this is, where you're a team that has a really great defensive player in Myles Garrett, a team that now has 5 quarterbacks on the roster. That's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. I can't imagine that you carry 5 quarterbacks in the regular season. I don't know what the Browns are expecting to do at the quarterback position, because you only can have 52 on a roster, and if 5 of those are quarterbacks, not sure what you're going to really get out of that. You're losing your third linebacker who's actually probably going to play. You're losing that third, fourth, fifth corner or defensive back that you're going to need later on in the year if you're carrying 5 quarterbacks. And so while it's entertaining for us, it's really funny to watch and to figure out what's going to happen. And Browns training camp is going to be watched and talked about like it's the Olympics this year. And because you don't know, like, are they going to keep 5 quarterbacks on the roster? Are they going to have Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and then your 2 rookies in Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders? That I can't imagine that you're carrying 5. And then are you going to practice squad a couple of them? Like, are you going to practice squad Dylan Gabriel, your 3rd round pick? Are you going to practice squad Shedeur Sanders and Deion's son, and just the hoopla that comes with being in the Shedeur Sanders business? Are you really going to bench him and send him to the practice squad? Are you sending Kenny Pickett to the practice squad? I'm not sure what your plan is here at quarterback. And the quote is, right, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. So if you have 5 quarterbacks, then you definitely have none. Who is the guy? And I don't know if any of these quarterbacks are going to give you a ton of wins. And I'm sure that's what they're banking on. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you go into 2025 with the plan of, we're not going to be very good, and we're probably going to be towards the top of this draft, and maybe we can finagle some moves around to try to get like an Arch Manning if he comes out of this year's draft, even though I actually don't think he will. Is that the plan? Like, what is the Browns' plan? That's all I want to know. And of course, no one will know. Only the GM and the brass of the Cleveland Browns will actually know what the heck is going on. But offensively, you got to figure out your quarterback position. Nick Chubb is gone, even though he's been hurt for, I don't know, majority of the last couple of years. He's still a really good player. Your offensive line is going to have to be reworked. This team's not going to be very good. And defensively, you're actually probably going to be better than on offense. You have Myles Garrett. You have Denzel Ward, who's coming off an injury. You have some pieces, I think, defensively. I'm interested in if this is going to be a sneaky hot seat for Kevin Stefanski. And I don't know if he's going to be on that seat because he's been a perennial Coach of the Year candidate the last couple of seasons, and I think he's done a decent job with what he's been given, especially at the quarterback position, coming in and getting Deshaun Watson, who just seems like he doesn't want to play football anymore, or at least doesn't want to play for Cleveland, even though he got all that guaranteed money. I think Kevin Stefanski has done a really good job with this team, but if you just keep going through this cycle of the jersey that it goes viral every fall, that it's just another name on the Cleveland Browns quarterback list before they get a decent one. If you just have a couple of other names on that back of that jersey, I think that you could be in a situation that you could possibly get fired. I think Kevin Stefanski is a really good coach. I think the dysfunction around this organization would be hard for anyone to figure out, and that's why it's been also a revolving door of coaches, because it's just there's no stability. And so what I would do if I was the Browns is I would keep Kevin Stefanski. I truly think he is a good coach, and I think that you have to have some stability at the head coaching position, and that recycling GMs and coaches and quarterbacks has not worked. So what can you do? You can at least try to stay stable in your head coach. If you feel like you need to get a new GM and get Barry out of there, then maybe. But I think you got to just stick with it and figure out the quarterback situation and give Kevin Stefanski a couple of seasons. Give him a couple of years to try to figure this out. Go the Mike Tomlin route. Go with it and just be like, no, we're sticking with this guy for this long. We have until 2030 to figure it out, or whatever it may be, because you don't want to keep having a revolving door of the three most important positions in an organization: the GM, the head coach, and the quarterback. You don't want it. And that's what it's going to be if you just continue to fire coaches and GMs and coordinators and all this. It's just a dysfunctional franchise, and I feel really bad for Browns fans because I felt like there was a little bit of hope at one point with Baker, and then you get Deshaun Watson, and then all this stuff happens, and it's been a mess, and I really do feel bad for Browns fans. All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers coming in at number 3 in my predictions of the AFC North. This is... I don't know if this is controversial. Mike Tomlin's a really good coach. Mike Tomlin also hasn't won a playoff game in, 5-6 years. Mike Tomlin is not an offensive guy. Mike Tomlin's floor, the floor of this team is always going to be 8-9 wins. Always. And some teams and some organizations need that. Cleveland Browns. Like, if Mike Tomlin could be in a organization like the Cleveland Browns and just be perennial, getting to the playoffs, possibly going over the hump, like, if that was the case for Tomlin, that would be great. But this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we have now seen multiple seasons of just trying to figure out a short-term solution at quarterback, not addressing quarterback in the draft. Well, I guess, they drafted Will Howard, but this is a team that has just done short-term rentals at quarterback the last couple of years, has banked on the fact that the coaching staff is going to get you to the playoffs, knowing full well that this is a team that is not going to win any games in the playoffs. Like, you cannot go on the road to Baltimore in the playoffs and feel like you're going to win that game. You cannot go on the road to Buffalo or Kansas City and be like, you know what? In the postseason, I'm going to win this. Because we haven't seen it for 6 years. It's been embarrassing. And I have them third because I don't think that this is going to be a perfect marriage with Aaron Rodgers. I think it's going to be better than what it was with Russell Wilson. But we're also talking about a 40-year-old quarterback. We're also talking about a guy who is a interesting cat. I don't know what else exactly to say, but is an interesting cat in Aaron Rodgers. And so, for the most part, this is a team that I think is just recycling what they did a year ago with marginally better quarterback play. Because like we can't forget that Russell Wilson wasn't absolutely terrible last season. Now, I'm not saying that he was, all pro level, but he wasn't terrible. I'm going to look up his stats from a season ago because, to be honest with you, he played well when he got this opportunity. Of course, he was hurt at the beginning of the year, didn't play the first couple of weeks last season, but for the most part, he played pretty well last year. So he didn't play in the first 6 weeks of the year. He finished the year with 2,482 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 picks. All right. Did not play well the last stretch of the season. Started 11 games for him, went 6-5. They were 4-0 in his first couple starts, 6-1 with a loss to Cleveland, which was not great, but also maybe not his fault. Russell Wilson was 21 for 28, 270 yards and a touchdown that game. But lost 24-19, week 12 at Cleveland. But they get a win against Baltimore. They get a win against Cleveland and Cincinnati on the road. And then the last 4 weeks of the year, when you're actually playing big dogs, when you're playing teams that are legitimate Super Bowl contenders, legitimate teams, you crap the bed. On the road in Philly, you lost 27-13. On the road in Baltimore, 34-17. At home against Kansas City, you lose 29-10. But Russell Wilson didn't play terrible. And so, even if you are getting marginally better quarterback play from Aaron Rodgers than what you were, and you say, yes, we upgraded at wide receiver, DK Metcalf better than George Pickens, at least more proven, more of a professional at this point. So even if you did that, you get rid of Najee Harris. Outside of DK Metcalf, Freiermuth is your best weapon, your tight end. So, this team, I think, is just going to be marginally better. Now, you've signed TJ Watt to this massive contract. You bring in Jalen Ramsey, ship out Mika Fitzpatrick. So you make some moves to hopefully get better, but it's just marginal. And I don't think that there was a move to be made that you could go out and just take a massive swing at someone to vastly improve. But we got to stop pretending that this coaching staff elevates offensively. We got to stop pretending that there aren't flaws in Mike Tomlin and this team, because this is not the first time that they've started really well. They've got to that point where he's not going to have a losing season, and then they just fall off a cliff at the end of the year. This isn't the first time. So I think that this is going to be a little bit more tumultuous than what some people, I think, expect. So that's why I have the Pittsburgh Steelers coming in second in the division in the AFC North. All right, number 2, the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is a gamble for me. I think this is a really good offense, obviously. Joe Burrow, when healthy, I think is, top 4 quarterback in the league. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. I think that those are kind of that class. So I think you have a top 5 quarterback. You have a top 5 wide receiver in Jamar Chase, and then in T. Higgins, I think you have another top 20, top 15 maybe. So you have the weapons. What, as I sit here and say this and going through this process of figuring out who I think is going to win these divisions, getting new information, maybe by the time we get to the end of training camp, I might change this because this organization has been, just pooping the bed on some of these contract negotiations and the business side of it. We've known that the Bengals have been cheap, and they are really showing it right now because they have 2 situations right now that are mind-boggling to most people around the NFL that are watching this, that are seeing this played out. Let's start with the Shemar Stewart stuff, because there are 2 folds here. I understand a team being like, look, if we're going to get in trouble, if we want to try to protect ourselves in terms of the money that we're going to be spending, if you get suspended or something happens, we don't want to have to spend that guaranteed money. I get that. I also fully back Shemar Stewart saying, I'm not signing that. I'm not signing it. Because any marginal thing could go back on this. I'm not setting the precedent for this team. And I get that. I totally understand and I get it. So you're at an impasse. So what are you going to do if you're the Cincinnati Bengals? Because you can either take that out of the contract, which honestly kind of seems like at this point you've made your point. At this point, it seems like you have put your foot down on this point, and you are going. You're not going to back down. You seem like you're sticking to it. So I don't know if the Bengals are going to do that, but are you going to let him not play and re-enter the draft next year? And if you're Shemar Stewart, are you like, you know what? I'm going to train. There was the rumor that he was working out with Texas A&M again. I think that Coach Mike Elko, the Texas A&M coach, said that that's not true. He's not coming back to the team. So I don't think that's a possibility. Now, then it gets into weird, could he possibly transfer to another college? I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but or if that would work. So he's also kind of sticking to his guns. And if he's just going to sit and work out and do all these things for a year, is that going to help him or hurt him? Because he could have lost a lot of guaranteed money. If he was a first-round pick, he maybe drops to the second round, third round in next year's draft. If people kind of forget about him in terms of the draft process as they're going through this, they're like, you know what? We haven't seen him in a year. He hasn't played organized football in a year. The contract situation, what is all that? Maybe some people pass on him. So in terms of the business, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. But the Bengals are in a sticky situation there. And then we get to the other sticky situation because they're in 2 right now with Trey Hendrickson. He's gone. He's in Florida. Trey Hendrickson is not in Cincinnati anymore to start training camp. He said he didn't want to hear the whistles and didn't want to just know that training camp has started and he's not there, so he left. Let me say, the Bengals' unwillingness to pay their cheapskatedness is going to put them in a situation where this defense, which was bad last year, could be even worse because they don't have a dude. Trey Hendrickson led the league in sacks last year. He is a force on the line. And if you cannot get pressure on quarterbacks, especially in this division with Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson, then you're not going to be very good. Now, I think coaching-wise, I think that this team's going to be a little bit better coaching-wise. The Bengals bring in the former defensive coordinator for Notre Dame and bring him over. And so I do think that they're going to be a little bit better because this is a young defense. Like, it wasn't good last year. They were really bad, but this is a defense that is really young. And so I do think that this is a team that could potentially get better defensively just because of the more reps. And as a college coach, you're more understanding. You understand what it's like to coach college kids. And if these guys are 1-2 years removed from college and you can kind of understand these concepts, I do think that they're going to improve marginally at defense, right? And if they're top 20, if they're 21, 22 in defensive this year, I think that they're going to be a team that wins 10 games, 10, 11 games possibly, because the offense is so good. So I this is a little bit out there, I think. I think that this is a little bit, I don't want to say a hot take, but not a lot of people I don't think are picking the Bengals second because of the defense. Offense wins games in the NFL in 2025. And you got to go. You have probably the best offense in the league if everyone is healthy. All right. Finally, it's the Baltimore Ravens. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about the Ravens because this is a team that we expect to be in that Super Bowl title contention. This is a team that brought in some veterans in Jaire Alexander. DeAndre Hopkins adds kind of that possession wide receiver to your team. And so I do think that this is a team that is just going all in. Derrick Henry might rush for 2,000 yards because he's trying to get into an Adam Sandler movie. Lamar Jackson is incredible in the regular season, and so he's going to be again. And he'll probably be right up there to win MVP because he is a dog. This is all about the postseason for the Ravens. This is all about the postseason. And we have been saying for 2 years now that, this is the year that the Chiefs are vulnerable. And then you get to the postseason and Patrick Mahomes just makes that one play that Lamar Jackson doesn't. And the Chiefs' defense gets a stop when the third down, the Ravens' defense can't get the stop. It's just been like that. And for the last 2 years, we have talked about the Kansas City Chiefs being not very good. Their roster's not great, and yet they have been in the Super Bowl for 3 consecutive years. This is it. I think back to the Bills. I think back to the Bills of the 90s. And getting to a Super Bowl and losing 4 in a row, that's got to hurt. But at some point, it's just like, I guess wasn't meant to be. I guess we'll just never get to the Super Bowl. Or we'll never win. And I think it's the same way for the Ravens. The Ravens and the Bills right now. It's just like, all right, well, I guess it's just not meant to be. If this isn't the year, maybe it's not meant to be because the time is running out. Like each year that you can't get over that hump, your team's getting older. You're going to have to retool. Derrick Henry's getting a year older. Your offensive line's getting a year older. This defense that is really good is getting a year older. And even if Lamar Jackson has 5, 6, 7 years left of really good football, these other guys might not. And so you got to strike. And that's what this is for the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to win the AFC North, barring crazy injuries. And I think that, I don't know if that's a disclaimer that anyone should have. Like, this is obviously without injuries. It's just getting over that hump and getting to a Super Bowl. That's it. And they're going to win the division, I think, pretty easily, 2 to 3 games. They're going to win the division by, they're probably going to have another 13-win season and maybe the 1 seed. That's what the Ravens will do this year. And then it's just about January. It's just about, can we play Buffalo and stop Josh Allen? Can we play Patrick Mahomes and beat him? Can we play a single elimination playoff game against Joe Burrow and the Bengals and beat them with that offense? That's what it comes down to for the Ravens. This is going to be a really good team. It just comes down to January. All right. Hey, if you like this, go watch the AFC East. I've already done that. We're going to be doing every division, breaking it down like this. So if you want to know my thoughts on the AFC East, go click wherever that is. All right. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.